government has maintained that measures outlined in the mid-year budget review will fast-track the recovery of the economy. The Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, rolled out programs that will address revenue leakages, check rising expenditure, and create required jobs. However, there are concerns about the timing of these measures, among other decisions. But speaking on PM Express, Deputy Finance Minister Abnel Sare says that these programs have well been targeted.
It's true. The last speaker mentioned about the flat rate tax. It's something we are reviewing because we've gone around, and these are some of the concerns that our stakeholders are raising, and it is something that we are looking at, and we believe that in the short to medium term, we will have something in that regard.
So Madam, sorry. So how soon? If you're going to review it next budget?
No, it is something. No, before you do these things, you need to engage your stakeholders.
Okay.
We have met the various stakeholders, and it is being assessed. And so I believe that in the short to medium term, we hear from government on this flat rates or making tax as easily accessible for everyone to be able to pay. And then another panel also mentioned the impact of all these programs that government is embarking on. When you look at the implementation of the national ID and linking it to our passports, our driver's license, and you having your tax identification number, previously the thing for the total population of this country was around 5.5 million. Now, with the introduction of the NIA and all these other interventions, we have about 15 million people with their tax identification numbers. So clearly, we are expanding or increasing the tax nets.
Well, speaking on the same program, economist Dr. Ebutaxin was excited that government was measured on its expenditure for the rest of the year and rather making a job creation a major priority.
We're excited that our economy has looking like we're moving on the road to more growth, and expecting that by 2023 we will have made a lot of gains in terms of our macro stability and so on and so forth. The pandemic hit in March, and of course, every country in the global economy had to struggle with having to lose some revenue and having to incur extra expenditure to the extent that our GDP went up. In the 2021 budget, the alternative for government was, so how are we going to do this? Are we going to borrow all along and fund whatever deficits, or we combine the two alternatives that we have? Structurally, that is how most African economies have been built. Not until we are able to formalize most of our economic activities and rely on direct taxes by collecting income taxes, we are going to always, as much as possible, combine some tax revenue generation with some borrowing. I would not, for one moment, pretend that this government can develop this economy without borrowing. I mean, we need to take a second look at the structure of our economy. And the transformation that we need in this economy is to create jobs, formalize the economy, and then begin to collect revenue. When the economy has expanded and jobs have been created, we are going to move to the next phase of the structural transformation, where we are going to be able to raise enough revenue that our appetite for borrowing will decline, and we are going to look beyond aid. So I was excited about the next stage of the CARES program and the precise policies the minister outlined that the government was going to pursue.
Well, let's stay on this matter because financial consultant Charles Mensah has maintained that young entrepreneurs in the rural area should also be given much consideration regarding the job creation agenda.
I must admit that there are quite a number of positives in it, especially the ones to do with technology. GRA, Register General, the digitalization of the system. So it makes it interesting. I have experience. Some of my clients were to pay your taxes, not exactly how much you ought to pay or you are paying, but then the processes have been reduced in such a way that it's easier for you now to log on and make the necessary payment. So it makes things very interesting. The point about Ghana Enterprise Agency, for instance, I like the way the minister put it, but I would love to suggest that you see some of the jobs can be created in the rural areas. So I always love linkages. Is it possible to link the Apex Bank to the Ghana Enterprise Agency? Because the rural banks are all over the place. They have the Apex Bank. If anything would happen positively, then we must link them. But I didn't hear anything in the budget review for the rural banks because they are there and they deal with the people directly in the rural areas. So if we deal with them positively, it will keep the rural urban migration. And it's very, very important that we look at this thing.
Charles Mensah is the financial consultant. Well, there's been a mixed reaction from members of parliament on the media review presentation by the finance minister Ken Ofori-Atta and the decision not to request for additional funding for government business. While the majority welcomes the move, members of the minority think otherwise. Here's a wrap on reactions by members of parliament.
This is the first time in a while that government has decided to abstain from reviewing its tax policies and requesting additional funds in the budget review for the year. According to the finance minister Ken Ofori-Atta, all economic targets are on track, hence no need for a review.
The Ghana incentive states and risk sharing scheme for agriculture and Ghana Commodity Exchange DCS, Venture Capital Trust Fund, and the restructured Ghana Enterprise Agency, formerly NTSSI. Anchor a new age of entrepreneurship, job creation, and wealth building for our post-COVID transformation.
The minister also hinted of an aggressive policy under the Ghana Cares Obatampa program to create about 1 million jobs. Deputy Minority Leader James Kluche Aveji describes the policy as an empty one since government has failed to complete most of its employment initiatives.
I'm not asking for additional funding. Where is the budget for it? Which area are you going to cut? Which is not even in the budget. That I'm cutting expenditure from expenditure A, then I'll use that one to provide 1 million jobs for the youth. It is not going to happen. It won't happen. There is no budget for it.
You keep saying they have a track record.
I'm saying that there is no budget for the 1 million you want to employ, you want to generate. So for that matter, it will not happen. Let me excuse me to say it's a lie.
Chairman of the Finance Committee, Kweku Kwating, however, disagrees.
You do not need to ask for additional money in order to create jobs. In fact, jobs created as a result of government using the taxpayers' money to create opportunities to pay people are not necessarily jobs in the true sense. As soon as you begin to manage the fiscals right, so that the macroeconomic indicators look good, and investors can see that going forward the economy would pick up, the private sector invests and creates the jobs.
Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Abu Jinapo, on his part, said the job creation agenda of government will be manifested through economic growth.
That we are going to launch the National Alternative Employment and Livelihood Program, a program which seeks to provide employment to illegal miners who are falling out of the cracks. We are going to reclaim the lands as well. We are going to engage in reforestation. We are going to have agriculture. We are going to have agro-processing. We are going to have apprenticeship. We are going to enhance community mining. We are going to have mine support services.
The media presentation was used by the minister to update the House on the performance of government in the first half of the year.